In the farthest reaches of the Orion Arm, the Galactic Empire believed itself untouchable. Worlds bent their knees, fleets shattered resistance, and cultures were erased under the shadow of its banners. To them, every myth of the conquered was merely dust and smoke, fading into irrelevance. But there are myths one should never bury, because myths sometimes walk in flesh. The Baba Yaga was one of them. She was not a queen, nor a general, nor even a name written in the records of empires. She was a whisper, an old earth legend born in fire, blood, and bone-deep terror. The Empire's first mistake was to think she was only a story. The second was to torture her. They found her on the ruins of an outlaw station at the edge of human territory, a small, bent woman with eyes that burned like coals in winter. She looked harmless, draped in ragged cloth, leaning on a crooked stick. The soldiers laughed, chaining her hands and dragging her into their worship as if they had caught a stray beggar. She did not resist. She simply watched. When they brought her to the Empire's high tribunal, cameras recorded every moment. The commander wanted a spectacle. The galaxy would see that even the so-called monsters of human folklore were powerless before the throne of dominion. "Tell us, old woman," the Inquisitor sneered, his voice echoing in the chamber, "what is your name?" Her voice was quiet, cracked with age, but it carried strangely well through the hall. "I am Baba Yaga," she said. The court erupted in laughter. The broadcast carried it to billions across the Empire's networks. "A children's tale," someone mocked. "A ghost," another jeered. The Inquisitor smiled cruelly, then let the galaxy watch as even ghosts bleed. They tortured her. The details are unnecessary, but the galaxy saw. For hours they made her scream, except she did not scream. Her eyes, dark and bottomless, never wavered from the faces of her tormentors. She whispered things in languages no translator could recognize, words that made the air grow colder. At last, broken and limp, she was declared dead. Her body was hung on a gallows for the cameras. The Empire celebrated another victory, the crushing of superstition. That was the moment the galaxy sealed its fate. 27 minutes later, the corpse stirred. The crowd that had gathered to mock fell into silence as the broken figure twisted on the rope. Slowly, impossibly, she straightened. Her eyes opened, and they glowed with a pale, unnatural fire. The rope snapped like a thread. She landed softly, as though the ground itself bent to catch her. The cameras continued to broadcast. Every screen, every holofeed, every port across the Empire now bore witness. "You have spilled my blood," Baba Yaga said, her voice deep and terrible, resonating through circuits and signal waves alike. "Now I will drink yours." The Inquisitor ordered soldiers to fire. Plasma bolts cut through the chamber, but none touched her. They curved away as though the air itself rejected them. Then the soldiers screamed, clutching their throats as shadows crawled up their armor, seeping into their flesh. One by one they fell, eyes wide in terror. Baba Yaga walked through the chaos, and where she stepped, the ground cracked like frost. The recordings showed everything. Whole planets watched as the old woman, who should have been broken, began tearing apart an empire. Ships sent to orbit her world found themselves swallowed by storms that had not existed moments before. Nebulas churned with unnatural lightning. Engines failed, lights died, and terrified crews swore they saw a reflection in every viewport, staring at them from the void. Governors tried to reassure their citizens, calling a hoax, but then their palaces collapsed into dust overnight, leaving nothing but forests of twisted black trees. On a desert moon, an entire garrison awoke to find their fortress inverted. Its stone halls now hanging upside down above their heads, their comrades' corpses nailed to the walls like grotesque ornaments. The galaxy began whispering the name again, this time not as a myth but as an inevitability. The Baba Yaga has returned. Humanity remained silent. Earth's governments, its fleets, its colonies, none made a move. When asked, they only gave a grim answer. "We warned you not to touch her," for in the quiet corners of human history, long before they had walked among the stars, every child had known the stories. Baba Yaga was not a person. She was an idea, a force, a reminder that cruelty calls cruelty and blood answered blood. Empires might mock, but humanity never forgot. The Empire's admirals gathered their fleets. Thousands of ships converged where the Baba Yaga had last been seen. They unleashed firepower enough to shatter moons, saturating entire regions of space in a blaze of destruction. And then silence. They thought her gone, until the screams started. The crews of those fleets began broadcasting emergency signals. Voices cried of corridors stretching into infinity, of crew members vanishing into doors that should not exist. On one flagship, the Admiral himself was found, days later, floating in orbit, his eyes black, his mouth frozen in a silent scream, his heart missing from his chest. No two ship survivors told the same story, except for one detail: the smell of smoke and the sound of footsteps that never came closer, yet never faded. Whole systems rebelled. Citizens rioted, chanting her name as both curse and prayer. Some begged her for mercy. Others fled into the void. The Empire began to collapse from within, strangled by fear more than force. The final act came at the Empire's capital, a world of towers that reached the stratosphere, where trillions lived under a sky of steel. On the day of their annual triumph celebration, the skies turned black. The sun vanished behind a boiling mass of storm clouds. Across the city, lights died, machines fell silent. And then she came, not in a ship, not in an army, just a crooked house on chicken legs, striding through the streets. Its windows burned with inner fire, and from its door she emerged, an old woman, stooped with a crooked stick. The mighty armies of the Empire opened fire. Their plasma bolts fizzled. Their mech seized up, and she raised her hand. Shadows poured out across the towers, swallowing steel and glass alike. The great capital screamed as it dissolved into a forest of black trees, endless and cold, each trunk bearing the faces of the dead. When it ended, there was no city. Only silence, only forest, only her, walking away, her stick tapping against the ground, the crooked house following. The Empire was gone, its fleets scattered, its governors dead or fled. The galaxy watched and learned too late. Humanity's myths were not merely stories. They were warnings. And the greatest warning of all was this: some beings should never be touched, never mocked, never chained. For when the Baba Yaga is wrong, no throne, no fleet, no empire can stand. Humanity did not rejoice. They did not claim victory. They only mourned, for they knew what the galaxy now knew. The Baba Yaga's revenge was never justice. It was a reminder, eternal and merciless, that fear itself can walk the stars.